Silence, frenzied, unclean spirit, cried God's healing Holy One. Cease your ranting, flesh can't bear it. Flee as night before the sun. This poetry in this hymn was written by Tom Troger, one of my very favorite professors at Iliff. He was inspired by this passage in Mark. Also, this passage appears in Luke. Let me ask you, aren't we all vulnerable in one way or another to unclean spirits that can destroy? I know that I am. And some of the unclean spirits, also known in our tradition as sins. Their pride and hubris, greed and lust, envy and gluttony, wrath, slothfulness, deception and anger even. And any of these spirits in excess can be destructive. It's so easy to find ourselves overtaken by demons, thriving in the gray cells of our minds. Demons in the gray cells of our minds, as Tom Troger wrote. Even Jesus, at the urging of the Holy Spirit, go figure, was sent into the wilderness to be tested by unclean spirits, to see what he was made of. Jesus was tempted there to trade God's love and God's grace for the assurance of power and control, for security, for popularity in his transitory world. Well, some of us are in the grips of addictions. For example, some of the offenders in the county jail where I volunteered for 10 years were desperate to silence the addictions in their lives, the unclean spirits that haunted them, like the addiction of alcohol and methamphetamines, and a host of other demonic creations. Addiction to revenge, addiction to anger and violence, even addiction to satanic cults. Some were so desperate to silence these unclean spirits that they purposely criminalized, intending to get caught in hopes that time in jail would give them a place that was safe to be healed of unclean spirits. Well, some of us, whether we are inside or outside of some jail, are tormented by unclean spirits, sometimes brought on by the conditions of our lives, like the devils that lurk in our jail of isolation these days. Some of those devils are hopelessness and loneliness and meaninglessness and grief and denial of grief. Boredom or addiction to self-destructive remedies and thoughts. All of us, from time to time, need God's help to silence unclean spirits from fears that distort even our reason, from fears that are even distorting of our reason. Well, for me, God's help comes when I can get honest with God about the malignant spirits that I am hauling around, that I am maybe even cooperating with. I invite God to penetrate the wounds caused by these spirits, and then if I can, let go of them with God's help. Let go of them in trust and in surrender to God's presence and action in my soul. Now, this is the way I do it. It's not everybody's way. That's okay. We are all custom jobs in God's kingdom. Well, the gospel in Mark today tells us that God in Jesus is the consummate teacher with divine authority over power and evil forces in the world. Jesus has the authority and the power to challenge evil and to transform lives in Capernaum and in Colorado. And we are invited to claim that power to bring about miracles in our lives and in the lives of those that we care about. The reign of God drew near. The kingdom of God was set loose in Jesus' early ministry in healing and teaching and in exorcism of evil. Jesus' Galilean ministry began with his teaching lesson to his newly chosen disciples in the synagogue in his hometown of Capernaum. That day, Jesus discerned a tormented man in their midst and was quick to banish the frenzied, unclean spirit that had a grip on this man. Jesus astonished the temple crowd when his word took action against this unclean spirit. Now, anyone who finds herself or himself imitating Jesus in confronting an unclean spirit has to be careful. Beware of arrogance and foolishness and the danger in confronting evil. Yet sometimes God's people get surprised by unclean spirits that unexpectedly present themselves in unlikely places. That happened to me one day in Walmart's. I was breezing through the kitty litter aisle when a frantic young woman placed herself in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. I was wearing a black clergy blouse and a collar, and she reached out and grabbed me. And she pled anxiously, "Are you a nun or something?" And I said, "No, I'm a priest." And she said, "Oh, God brought you here today. I prayed you would be here. Please, please, can you help me?" In a breathless frenzy, she continued, "The powers of darkness have a grip on me. I'm so scared. I'm in deep trouble and I am helpless in the devil's control over me." I asked her if she could tell me a little bit more about what was terrifying her, but she never got specific. Sobbing, she continued, "I am losing in this struggle against the devil's plans for my life. And I am unable to stand against this evil that has claimed me and is taking charge of me. And I've tried," she said, "I have tried. I have prayed for the armor of God in Ephesians, but that has not ended my torment and it hasn't ended my terror." Well, as you can imagine, by that time, a number of people had gathered around us, and I quickly and silently prayed for the armor of God for myself. And then I just brought her into my arms. And I held her tight. And I closed my eyes and I prayed with her that God would stand with her against the devil's schemes, that God would encamp around her, and that she could stand in safety against the powers of darkness in her life, that the devil would be silenced in her. Well, little by little, she stopped sobbing. She relaxed in my arms. I felt a calm and peace and silence come over her. And then, as quickly as she had appeared in the kitty litter aisle in Walmart's, she fled. She fled as the night before the sun. She fled. as night before the sun. Now, the scientifically minded and the biblically critical among us might think this exorcism passage in Mark is a sweet but unlikely story. That any alleged healing of evil spirits can be a form of magic and imagination. But few of us can deny that demons can lurk in our lives, in this sanctuary, in our world, and that we can experience evil clinging to us, and that there are unclean spirits wreaking havoc in the world that need to be silenced. And for those who dare, the Word of God invites us to challenge the forces of evil under the authority of Jesus, and to silence unclean spirits that torment our world. We're invited and privileged to claim Jesus' authority and Jesus' power in the gospel today, where Jesus models for the disciples and for us that authority and that power in his words and in his actions. Jesus' words alone can heal and disrupt the forces of evil. Jesus stands with us in our struggles, knowing our longing and our brokenness. Jesus ushers people, he even ushers demons into the presence of God and commands them to be still. So we're invited this morning to stand not just in amazement, but in faith in what Jesus is teaching us and teaching the church. That in Jesus, the reign of God has drawn near. It was Jesus who set the reign of God loose on this earth. Thanks be to God. My friends, let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power and the glory and the kingdom forever and ever. Amen.